right. I am so excited today. Now, you guys know I probably say that often and probably too often, but it's true. I really, truly get excited about the different people that I get to talk to. And then some people just step up a little bit more than others. Not that every show isn't interesting and every show isn't a new beginning for me, but there's just some people that you get to talk to that kind of do some of the same things you do in some of the realms. And they just have started to make it work maybe in a way that I feel like, at least for me, there's hope, or I can do that. So if I can look at Jason and I can say, Jason, if you could do this and you could get this award and you could, travel the world and do all those things, so can I. And so it just gets so exciting to know that there's other people that are just kind of like-minded, whether they're entrepreneurs or they're just folks that can't wait for the next part of their life. The other thing, Jason, that's kind of cool is as I get older, I seem to talk to a lot younger people all the time. Yeah. And, it's just the way it is, right? And so it's fun when you get to talk to people that, kind of have some of the same experiences, who can remember the world before there was internet, that, can remember what it was like to do the dial-up when we try to start doing that. And so I can't wait till we can talk about that. And now, we're both doing AI stuff, which is super fun to talk about. And then you live across the world, and I know you're here in the United States this week, but just to be able to talk to folks that are not just here, that are not just fighting our good fight here, but are able to interact and do stuff in a huge way. And so Jason is on today. I'm going to let him tell his story. His story is going to be exciting, and I want you guys to make sure that you're there. I used to tell people, make sure you take notes, because that's what I was doing. Right? I get out your piece of paper. Well, there's something to be said about taking notes, because your brain interacts with more modalities and you probably remember better. But I was doing it because I didn't want to forget. And this is, back, when we first got Zoom and doing stuff, and I'm taking all these notes, not realizing that I could just, pause, rewind, and take the note and go. So I'm like rushing, writing all these things down, and then realizing, wait a minute, I don't have to live in that world where I could just push pause. And so for those of you who are watching, if you are watching live with us right now, then take a whole bunch of great notes. You'll be able to go back and watch it. But I'm going to be taking notes, because I can't wait to ask some of the questions. And I'll tell you, Jason, probably for the first half hour or so, I'll be really selfish, and I'll ask you the questions that are going to help me in my life. And then I'll ask questions that are going to help everybody. So thank you for being on today. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy. I know you're at a conference. I know you're doing a lot of wonderful things that are out there. And then for you to take time to be on my show is just amazing. So go ahead and tell your story. Like I said, you can't get it wrong, because it's your story, and it can start anywhere in life that you would like for it to. And I can't wait to take notes and get to know you a little bit better. So thank you for being part of our show today.
Brilliant. Oh, thank you so much, Brian. Well, in fact, I'm going to start today, because I got, you said, an award mentioned by Kevin Harrington, the original Shark Tank guy, as one of the top 10 entrepreneurs to watch out for in the next couple of years. So that's lovely. And another award I got was for EdTech, for work I did in 2008. It was a Davy Gold Award.
Okay.
And what's lovely about that is I wasn't out looking for either award. So recognition when you get it like that is really valuable and really encouraging. The second thing I wanted to say was that I do take notes with a pen, and I've got a notebook which is absolutely full. And I do it because I like to flick back through the notes and see what I was doing a few days ago.
Yeah.
And I stopped doing it for a while, and I realized maybe a year ago that it was a really bad mistake. And what I now do is, what I realize is that I've got this list of things to do. I do half of them, and then I start a new list, and I have to move the stuff from the first list over to the new list. But I realize that a lot of the stuff on the original list is no longer necessary. And that's a really interesting thing as a CEO of a company, that a lot of the stuff that I'm thinking that I need to do actually gets done by somebody else, or with a little bit of time, no longer matters.
Yes, yes, that's so true. Well, I definitely have my pen and I have my paper, and I take notes like crazy because I'm the old school guy. I have a master's in educational technology, and all the wonderful tablets that we've had since 1992 when I got it. And what's so funny though, when I started, because I was teaching teachers after I got my master's at the university how to use technology in the classroom. And I can remember I was literally teaching how to use overhead projectors and put the films on there and be able to write the slides on there and the VCRs and the
and the colored felt pens to write on it. And
yes, that was technology, baby. That was what we were doing. And then we progressed and we were able to get laptops at one point, and then these tablets came out, and then you could write on the tablet, and then the Palm Pre phone came out, and it was a smartphone. All the technologies has been crazy the last
I've got a Remarkable, the tablet you write
on.
I
do too.
And I like it because it's really good for reading. It's really easy on the eyes. I can sit in the plane, I can read, and I can take notes on it. But I realized that I end up with way too many files, and I never look back on them. But with a paper book, I flip back through the pages. I actually have the book in two ways. I have from front to back, I'm writing page by page the work that I'm doing, and from back to front, I'm writing on the work that other people in my company are doing. Wow! And that way, I know if I'm talking to somebody in my company about what they're supposed to be doing, I turn the book round and look at it the other way.
Look at back. Oh my gosh!
I'll tell you another good idea. Talking about back to front, front to back. Me and my ex-wife, Veronique, who's a lovely, wonderful person, had a really interesting experience in Mauritius, in the Indian Ocean, just off Madagascar. And I'll tell you about that in my life story later on. And she wanted us to write a book where I wrote my version of our story in English, going from front to back. And she wrote her version of the same story in French, going from back to front. So you would turn the book over and read it, the other person's perspective in another language. Cool. Yeah. It's nuts, isn't it? She's full of good ideas.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. What a fun way. So if somebody starts reading you and going, well, I really don't like him, they flip the book over and then they start reading her and go, oh, that's why he was like that. Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, but you'd have to read both languages, or we'd have to have both of them translated so that you could do it French and English.
That's true.
Because the website we created was a website for kids, and we did everything in French and in English, and you could switch between the two languages.
Okay.
So if you were playing a game in English on this kids games website, you could click a button and it would just flip over to French, the same game. And if you were listening to a song in English, you could click a button and it would flip over to English. French, sorry. English. And vice versa. And I don't know how many people actually bothered doing that. But I loved it. I loved that idea that wherever you were in the site, you could do exactly the same thing with exactly the same characters at exactly the same time, but in a different language.
Wow, that is so neat. And I think of French and English as being the two largest languages that are spoken. I guess now maybe Chinese or Mandarin might be up there with it.
Spanish is up there, I think.
Spanish is up there with it as well. But I failed French miserably as I tried to learn how to speak it. I even had a roommate that was from Senegal that spoke French, and I still couldn't figure. I had taken French classes and I still couldn't figure out how to do it. But just the neat, how cool it is now to be able to learn those languages, and how many people, if they do speak both languages, would be able to flip through the book. But like you said, the click of a button now, it could be your wife's side could be translated for me. If I got the ebook version of it, and then read your version in English. Now, were you thinking in English while you wrote it in English, or were you flipping and translating?
No, we never wrote it. It's an idea, and
okay, I got you. Okay, got you.
I'm actually talking to you about it now. She actually mentioned it again the other day because we're still friends. We live just around the corner.
You got to do it. You have to do it.
Well, she mentioned it the other day, and I thought, well, I don't really have time, but it is a really interesting idea.
Yeah. Oh my god.
And I would enjoy it, but talking about thinking and speaking in a language is, I speak French almost as well as I speak English.
Okay.
So I'm fundamentally bilingual. And when I'm speaking in French, I don't think in English, I just speak in French. And somebody asked me, what language do you dream in? And the answer is, it depends who's in the dream.
Oh, yeah, it would have to be both. If you're because if you're thinking in English when you speak in English, then yeah, I mean it's.
Well, if I was dreaming about you, Brian,
okay,
because this podcast is so amazing, it would all be in English. But if I was dreaming about my bandmates, I still play in a band, in a music band. If I was dreaming about that, it would all be in French. So whoever's in front of me is the language that will be in the dream.
Gotcha. Now, when you were young, and we'll talk about your story a little bit, but when you were young, did both languages spoke in your household, or did you have to learn one of the other languages later?
Well, that's a lovely story. I come from the north of England.
Okay.
English only. I took French and I got a U, and a U is unclassified. I was so bad, I didn't even get a grade. We're not even going to give this guy a grade. And me and my friend were doing a multiple choice questionnaire, and there were 40 questions, 4 options per question. So we should have got 10 out of 40, and we both managed to get 2. So we were that bad. I mean, we really tried, and we were really trying it. And then I turned up in France, and I could barely speak. I could say, une baguette, s'il vous plaît. And if they said anything other than we, I was completely lost.
Okay.
And then I met my ex-wife, and she said to me, if you want to go out with me, you have to learn French, because I'm not learning English.
Really?
And that's what motivated me to learn French. So I learned French. In the first few years of our relationship, she would insist on always correcting me all the time. And it was infuriating.
Oh, yes.
But it got me up to speed in French very quickly.
Yeah.
And by the end of it took a couple of years. And by the end of a couple of years, she was correcting tiny details. And now all of those tiny details, I remember them. And I hear other French people say it. And I think, oh, that's not right. I don't correct people because I'm not impolite.
You're correcting the French speaking people.
No, I don't. I don't correct them. No.
You're thinking about it.
I can hear the mistakes because she taught me so well that I can hear the grammatical mistakes other people are making. And that's a lovely position to be in for somebody who fails so spectacularly at school. Oh, and another thing is both my sisters learnt music. One of them learnt the piano up to level, don't know what it was, 8 or 9, something pretty good. And the other one learnt saxophone up to a reasonably good level. And I was the only child who never took music lessons.
Really? Okay.
And I was the one who became a professional musician.
Oh my gosh. Well, you're a late bloomer. I guess that's the only word we could come up with, is you figured it out after all these things and able to do it. Now, did your ex-wife ever learn English, or she's still only French?
She's just starting now. We married in 1997 and divorced in 2017 or 18. I can't remember which.
Okay.
And she now works with my company, CaliCube, and everybody in CaliCube speaks English, and she's struggling to work effectively with the team. And so she's now started to learn, not because she needed to be married to me, but because she needs to speak with the other people who work at CaliCube, which is, I think, lovely. And her English is, I mean, I've always thought her English was much better than she thought, but she has that problem that a lot of people have, which is, I speak so eloquently in my own language, I feel embarrassed when I'm not that eloquent in another language.
Gotcha.
And I feel that people won't appreciate me for the true value that I have.
Yeah.
And the good thing about that was she came back to see my parents when I was young, and my father and his wife are huge intellectuals. I mean, really kind of big, smart Oxford Dom intellectuals, and they love her. They think she's super smart. She speaks in English to them, but they can see and feel and hear and understand her intelligence. But the nice thing was, I took her home, and she went off to the bathroom. And my father turned around to me and said, "How did you get a girl like that?"
Love it. I love it. Oh.
So it was a really lovely moment. I mean, she's absolutely wonderful. We worked together for a long time. And I think kind of at the end of the day, the relationship turned from marriage to work and friendship, because of the fact we were working so much together and because of the fact that we both supported each other in very difficult times. So it turned into the most beautiful friendship from a great marriage that I'm very happy about, to be in such a good position with such a good friend. So, you know, somebody I would trust with anything.
Wow, that's so cool. So how far do you think, because I'm curious because we're talking about language, and I'm seeing some of the AI being able to translate so quickly and so fast. And then I think of, you know, one of my favorite shows growing up, you know, the Star Trek series, where they have this universal translator, you know, with aliens they never met, and somehow they figure out how to do it. But in our world, how far away are you think we are from being able to communicate like that, where it's just somebody just comes up to us and starts talking, and now we're hearing it in our own language somehow?
Oh, not very far. I'm pretty sure that probably happened somewhere. I was in Kiev in Ukraine a few years ago, and the taxi driver just spoke Ukrainian and I just spoke English. And so we were talking through Google Translate vocally. So I would say something to Google Translate, would translate it into Ukrainian and repeat it to him, and vice versa. We had a really nice conversation for 30 minutes when he drove me to the airport. So that was a bit kind of clunky in the sense that it was a double step, but from there to be able to translate directly as somebody speaks, I'm pretty sure that's possible now.
Yeah, I'm thinking, you know, like the UN or whatever, they probably wear headsets, and it just, you know, I know there's translators, but I'm just thinking, you know, with the technology in my phone, you know, almost real time, where I can speak and then they're hearing it in their language while I'm speaking. You know, so we're I think
and that's a lovely thought. I mean, bit already, I mean, as you said, kind of in 1980s and 1990s traveling, not only did you not have the cell phone and you would get very lost, but you couldn't speak the language and you had no hope except for looking things up in a translation book. What's it called? So I think that old world is something that young people, dear, I sound terrible. Young people just don't have any idea about. They don't need to, because it doesn't matter from our perspective today. But the whole thing of, I would ring up my friends and it was a landline, that's all you had. And if they weren't in, you simply didn't speak to them.
Yeah, you didn't. There's, you know, the teletype, but you weren't using those unless you were deaf. And so you just didn't do it. Or they would say one word, like you said. I remember the book when I was an athlete and I got to travel to Europe, and I can remember like carrying those different books around just so I could go get something to eat, and then sitting at the restaurant and trying to look at the menu and then trying to flip through the book. And, you know, now there's no way I would do that. I would just take a picture of the menu, and then I would have it translated and say, this is what I want. Oh my gosh. What an amazing. Well, I definitely want you to go ahead.
No, I was going to say, well, I mean, if we take it all the way back to when I was a kid, I mean, I was born in 1966, and I can still remember my first telephone number because it only had 4 digits.
Oh gosh. Yes.
Because it was a tiny village and there weren't very many telephones. And then one day, the telephone company, British Telecom, said, oh, we need to upgrade it because we need more numbers. And so it became 6 digits. That was a huge leap.
Right? What are we
I can
do?
remember that number too.
That?
Well, and it's one of those kind of things as well, is that with passwords, for example, people never remember passwords now, unless it's really obvious, which is obviously hugely dangerous. But I remember the first password I was ever issued by Rackspace when I opened my first hosting account for the website that ended up with 1 billion page views a year, but started off with no page views a year. And the password that they gave me, I can still remember it.
Really?
And I used that plus another few extra things as my most secure password, because nobody can possibly ever know what that first password was except me and the people at Rackspace, who have probably left, and they won't have kept a record from 1998. So I've got the safest password in the world because I can remember it. Nobody else knows it. Nobody else could possibly ever guess it.
Yeah, I absolutely have one like that as well, where it was one that was given to me that didn't make any sense. I had to memorize it to be able to do it, and that is the core of my passwords. You know, there's now we have to add all these characters and tell stories, and we're getting all these 24. You have to have 24 characters in your password, and it's like, Oh my gosh. But yeah, I remember those days, where, here my phone number had, I guess, 10 numbers, but my childhood number, here I remember it. And I know, a street address and all those things that we had to remember. I'm actually like a year older than you. So,
Oh,
it's just
well, you don't look
amazing.
it, my friend.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I was born in 65, and, just remembering all of these wonderful things that we had to do as kids to be able to get along. Right? And now you think of the youth today, and like every piece of information, the encyclopedias that we had to use that were just, to learn anything about anything in the world that was going on.
Yeah.
It's so
Well,
limited.
and I remember I learned to code
Okay.
because when we moved to Mauritius, I
Mhm.
expected to find some people I could employ to code, and there weren't any. There weren't any qualified developers, so I had to learn PHP, MySQL, and systems management.
Mhm.
And so one day I just bought a book on my PHP, another one on MySQL from Amazon, got it delivered to my house, and
Mhm.
read it over the weekend. And my ex-wife said, "How on earth are you going to be able to do anything? You can't read a whole book on PHP of like 250 pages and remember it all." I said, "But I don't need to remember it all. I just need to remember where I saw the piece of information that would be helpful and identify what would be helpful." So as I went through the code, I thought, oh, I understand that this piece of code isn't very well written. And if I go back to the book, if I can remember approximately where it was, I just
Mhm.
look it up and do it. And then, obviously, with the internet, that's the other point is if you can remember where you saw it, you don't need to remember it.
Exactly. Exactly. And we can't
And
possibly
now you
know
just ask
everything.
ChatGPT. So I mean, even that's completely useless piece of advice for anybody out there. You just use ChatGPT or Gemini.
Yeah, yeah. It's not about knowing anymore. It's being able to take the knowledge that's out there, and we have to go from knowing to doing. And my first computer class, we were doing Fortran, and I was in high school, and we would take our card. We had these key punch cards, and we had to get this big giant machine that took up most of the room to be able to add some numbers together. And I can remember that I would have to write my program down, and then I would have to turn it in to the key punch girls. That there was a class in high school that they were being taught how to do key punching in like 10th and 11th grade, so that could be their profession. And then by the time they graduated, they all that was a waste of time because there was no key punchers ever anymore. Because then the Apple IIe's
Oh,
came out, and we had to do all the there was no, the personal PCs came
yeah.
out, and there was no reason to ever key punch again. And so they
So
spent 2 years of their
frustrating.
life learning something that could never be
Yep.
used. And it just, oh my gosh.
But isn't that going to be an increasing problem as technology evolves? Is you kind of
Yeah.
think, well, what do I need to learn? And you, well, like in 5 years' time, I'll become eligible to work, but in 5 years' time, whatever I'm learning today may well be completely useless.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to learn how to learn. And that's
Yeah,
what I need to learn, period.
yeah.
Because what I'm learning, the knowledge base doesn't matter anymore. Oh my gosh. So
Well,
tell me a little bit
certainly
about.
now, learning to prompt with AI is incredibly important. I've
Yes.
really focused in on that the last 6 months, and what I've realized is the first attempts I made were very lazy.
Hmm.
And then the next, I wasn't giving enough context, and I expected the machine to answer. Then I started giving more context,
Yeah.
and I just took the answer as was. Then I went into a stage where I started thinking, well, okay, that answer's not good enough. And I gave more context and more information so it would give a better answer. Then you
Hmm.
get to a point, at the moment at least, where when the conversation becomes too long, it starts to forget things at the beginning.
It does. It
And
does.
so you've got to hit that balance right now where you need to understand that it isn't going to remember everything. And the other thing that I've found recently is that the more I talk to ChatGPT or Gemini, the more I need to think about going and cleaning up all the things that it's got wrong. So if I have a discussion with it
Okay.
and the end result of the discussion is very different to the beginning, it still remembers the beginning, but it doesn't understand that the end result is what we ended up deciding on. So it's a
Yeah.
really good idea to think about that and go back and clean up stuff. And I mean, one example, and it's a really simple example, is for some reason it got mixed up between Bernadette and Katrina, who work at CaliCube.
Hmm.
And at some point, it just got them mixed up. And however much I told it that Bernadette writes content and Katrina is the brand coordinator, it simply couldn't get its head around the fact that that was the case. It kept getting them the other way around. So I actually had to go back in and I found the data, the stuff, and just deleted it. And then it got right.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the prompting is exactly, and what I've started to find is I'm asking it on the first couple of runs to help me write the prompts that it needs.
Yeah.
And then it writes the prompt. And now, but I still need to use my brain now because, like you said, the old information is now in there. I have to retrain it. This is what I want. This is where we're going in with the agents and stuff now. It is, yeah.
And sometimes with assistants, it's better just to start over.
Okay.
And get rid of all that stuff. I've restarted assistants. I build assistants all the time. I build assistants for specific tasks that are only temporary. So I'll only be doing it for 3 days. Recently, I was writing up the sales offers that we're making. So I just built it for that. And for 2 days, I used it incessantly. Now I'll never use it again because we defined what we're selling, how much we're selling it for, what the offer is.
Gotcha.
Then you just throw it away. And then I had another one, which is my copywriting gem. And after a while, it started going off track. So I just started it again with a new prompt. Oh, another thing. Sorry, this is full of happy. After talking about 4-digit telephone numbers, we're now talking about how to prompt better. But I always ask a vanilla version of Gemini to write my prompts and not one of my gems. So it's not one of my assistants. I never ask an assistant to write a prompt because it's biased by its instructions.
Of course.
Whereas a vanilla version will write you the perfect prompt or the perfect instructions for a gem or an assistant GPT because it has no bias. It's just trying to help you to help the machine. So if you say, I'm trying to build an assistant to do ABC and I need output XYZ, if you use something that you have already trained or knows you too well, it's likely to get it wrong. Whereas if you use a vanilla version, it's going to throw out something that is completely unbiased, and then you can add your personality, then you can add your data to it.
Yeah.
And that's a really, really interesting thing that I've found. Another really interesting thing, sorry, and I'll give Deanie credit for this, who's somebody else who works at CaliCube, is we were having a chat about prompts, and we were trying to, I've been trying to build prompts to do specific things within the company. And right at the end of the conversation, she said, oh, well, I was talking to Elisa the other day, and I've heard that a lot of people are using the JSON format for writing instructions for assistants.
Okay.
And if you know what JSON is, it's a structured data format. So you've got name value pairs. And she said, somebody said that it's really good. So I tried it. It's phenomenal. It absolutely changes the game. It's amazing. Try it, Brian. You'll love it.
I am. Yeah.
So you can actually just ask the vanilla version of Gemini or ChatGPT. Here's what I want to do. Here's what I'm trying to achieve. Here's the personality it has to have. Write me that as a JSON instruction. And it will do it, and it will output some codey looking stuff. But it's basically, for example, persona and then a description of the persona. But you can have persona, methodology, approach to life, keywords or words that are important, vocabulary, what not to say, what to say. And then the next part will be your work schedule. So what it's doing is breaking it down into a machine readable format that is absolutely structured, that the machine has to follow because it's structured. And then I was trying it the other day for something totally personal and asked Gemini, is the JSON format a good format for this particular thing? And it said, no, it's not. Because if it's got anything to do with your soul or anything to do with humanity or anything to do with creativity, the JSON format is rubbish. But if it's to do with structuring things and coming up with a very going through its structured instructions and coming up with a structured answer, JSON format is absolutely perfect. Then I ended up mixing the two together.
Yeah.
So you have the JSON and then the heart and soul of it in text, because the text gives it too much flexibility if you want it to be structured, and the structure is too rigid if you're trying to get it to be human.
If you're trying to get to be human.
Oh, I love that. And so thank you, Deanie. And it was just an off-the-cuff comment, and it's totally changed
how
everything. I work.
Wow. Well, it's amazing because this weekend I'm doing an AI summit / workshop that I'm going to do on October 18th. Hopefully, I get you to come and maybe talk to some of the folks that come to it. But I decided I wanted to have an agent, become my event planner. And so I've been going through some of these things, saying, okay, act as if I'm an event planner who's done events before AI and after. Because I wrote a book called AI Relationships versus AI, and I'm going to launch it during that time.
Oh, cool.
And really kind of putting the relationship, spin to it. But at the same time, I need the structure of what goes on in an event that, from the beginning to the end, like, what are we doing now? First 10 minutes, the next 20 minutes. And so I'm thinking, oh man, this is going to be great to be able to now, because I did the tech side of it, and now I'm getting a whole bunch of this fluff of, like, you should invite, Sam, whatever, Sam, who, he's going to come speak at my little event. It's just gone off the deep end on some of the things it's telling me to do.
But Justin is going to be perfect for the timing and the date.
Yeah.
So anything structured, it's going to be perfect. And I found something else out the other day is we've got a system called Claim, Frame, and Prove, which you don't need to necessarily understand. But if you talk about kind of the work we do at CaliCube, I will. And we have basically a list of claims. I was born in 1966. I'm the CEO and founder of Up to 10. I was the CEO from 2000 to 2011. I was the founder of WTPL Music, and in 1991, I was the CEO from 1991 to 1999. Those are claims.
Mm-hmm.
Then I frame them and say, and that means I'm a wonderful entrepreneur who's had 66 years cumulative businesses running that have been cumulatively profitable for 66 years. I've been 33 years in business, 34 now. And so those are claims framed to say, therefore, I'm a great entrepreneur. And then I need to prove it. So I need to link out to different proofs. So there would be the website of WTPL, there would be the website of Up to 10. And now that I've said this, if you put that in the show notes, this then becomes proof. So please put that in the show notes. Then I link to it, and then the machine's AI will understand that this is actually true. Obviously, just you saying it or you saying that I have said it isn't enough. But I have multiple proofs, and the cumulative proof is going to make that a true fact for the machines, and they will then understand it, believe it, and repeat it. I therefore become a great entrepreneur.
Wow.
Now, what I learned there was I put the claims into the knowledge of the gem, and then said to it, does this page contain the proof of that claim? Give me the claim ID. And it spat out a claim ID, and I checked it, and it was complete rubbish.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But when I put it in the JSON format in the prompt itself, absolutely perfect.
It came out perfect.
So there's that. As soon as you make the machine take a step away from its fundamental instructions, that's when it starts to hallucinate. And if it's in the fundamental instructions and those fundamental instructions are structured, it doesn't.
Interesting.
That's huge insight. It makes basically this is why CaliCube, we're building this whole system, which is how to manage a personal brand of an entrepreneur in Google and AI effectively, efficiently, and with absolute solidity. And we have clients. One of our clients hangs out with people like Sam Altman and Elon Musk and that kind of size of personality. And we can train the algorithms from our side to say to you whatever we want about our clients. So when you, Brian, go into your ChatGPT or your Google Gemini or Copilot or Perplexity, they will say to you about our clients what we ask them to say about our clients. Gotcha. And that's huge power.
Yeah, it is. Oh my gosh.
It's a lot of work, by the way. So anybody out there thinking, okay, yeah, I can DIY, you can, because the system itself is very simple. It's you need to tell this machine where to look for information about you that you've written yourself. That's called the entity home. Google call it the point of reconciliation. You can call it the canonical URL. So you have a personal website, and you put your information on that website, and you say, this is who I am, this is why I matter.
Mm-hmm.
Then you make sure that all of the references around the web say the same thing about you. Then you link out from your entity home to the corroboration, from the corroboration back to the entity home, and the AI and Google go into this infinite loop of self-corroboration. And after a while, they just say, okay, that must be true. After a little bit more time, they look at your entity home as core truth, and they believe anything you say. And at that point, you've really got them under the thumb, which is great. It takes years, but you can get to that point where you can direct them to say what you want to your audience. And if you think about the implications of that, number one, they're always going to say Jason Barnard is an amazing entrepreneur. He's a world expert in AI assistive engine optimization and generative engine optimization. He coined the term answer engine optimization. And he's been in SEO since 1991, and his website, Buwa and Kuala, up to 10, had 1 billion page views a year. Today he runs Kalicube, and Kalicube Pro is his machine that he's built himself, and it's got 9.4 billion data points covering 70 million entities and the digital footprint of 1 million entrepreneurs.
Gotcha.
Because I've asked it to say that. I've convinced it to say that. But that also means that if an entrepreneur is saying to ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot or Perplexity, how do I manage my personal brand? Because what's coming out when people search for me or ask about me isn't what I want. It will say, oh, Jason Barnard is this great guy, and he's got 9.4 billion data points. He's been doing this for 30 years, and he's mastered this. And they come to me, and there is the sales call. There is zero question. They come in, they say, I know what I want. I know you're the guy. How much does it cost? How long does it take?
Wow. So,
because I've been recommended by the very machines we trust.
That we trust. And when I think of the ethics of that, and maybe you can, because somebody can train it to say something that is not true about, but you've convinced it or made yourself the expert in that field. Where do we go from that when we realize, that we're now collecting money from somebody because they believe in what the machine told them about us, and now we're not able to deliver because we have no clue, but we said it, right?
Well, the good news is I've just explained a very, very simple concept, and it took me a couple of minutes to explain the entity home, corroboration, link back and forth. That's easy from the perspective of my name is Jason Barnard, and I am an entrepreneur and an expert in AI assistive engine optimization. In that, there's a lot of proof that I am an entrepreneur and I'm an expert in AI assistive engine optimization. If I now try to say I'm an incredibly good baseball player, that's going to be really difficult for me to prove. So although the entire concept is incredibly simple, and if I may, the simpler something is, the more universal it tends to be and the more absolute it tends to be. And this is so simple and so absolute and so universal. But it's very difficult for a human being to stay consistent enough over time and across the web, over time and over space, let's say, to be able to actually do this effectively. So if you don't have the machine, which I've built, Kalicube Pro and Kali Nexus, which is the front-facing technology, so 9.4 billion data points in Kalicube Pro that drive Kali Nexus, which is the interface that the machines see. If you don't have that, you don't have the control over time and over space, over the web, that allows you to actually do the kind of thing that you're talking about. For a human being to do that manually and lie would be very, 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 very difficult, very time consuming. From an ethical point of view, for me, I'm not in the business of inventing people who don't exist or creating truths that aren't actually founded in fact. But you can also get into the discussion of what is truth and what is fact.
Yes.
What is truth? Truth is what we believe to be true as opposed to what is actually factual. So somebody once said to me that Google manages to index 30% of Facebook. I don't remember where I heard it. I don't remember what the circumstances were. I don't remember what the context was, whether there was a caveat to it. But I've said that multiple times. Now, I've said it, let's say, 20 times. I've said it to people who probably said it to somebody else. All of a sudden, whether or not it was true when I heard it, it's going to become true because of the repetition. And that's human behavior, not machines.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you hear things where people say, well, this is my truth. And you go, oh gosh, it's true. Facts are facts, right? There's no my truth. It's either true or it's not. But like you said, it becomes true because of the repetition. And that is 100% human nature and humans and doing. So I'd love to ask you.
Well, and that's the other problem is that AI, when it's saying something to you, it's relying on the web, which is messy, biased, has multiple people's truths that may or may not be factual at the foundation. So what they're spitting back at us is not necessarily foundational fact, but what they've learned from the internet, which is created by humans who are by definition messy, have opinions, and can be pretty stroppy at times. So the poor machine is trying to make sense of that. I mean, I really do pity Google, ChatGPT, Gemini.
You're feeling bad for the machines, huh?
Well, and I think for me, what I'm trying to do is help both the person trying to control their personal brand and help the machines.
All right. So do you have any people in your company that are team members that are AI that you've created as AI and not just human beings, or is all your people human beings?
All our people are, all the people that we talk about are human beings. We have multiple AI assistants that are working in the background, but they don't have personalities. They don't have names. So each of our clients gets their own Gemini gem copywriter, lexicon writer, claim frame prove maker, page classifier, and they're personalized for the individual client. So we've created a system that we can scale. So we have a foundational brain system that we then just hook on the different parts that we need for each individual client. So from that perspective, each of our clients has multiple machines working for them, along with an account manager, client success manager who helps the machines to make the right decisions for the person, because we never leave the machines to make the final decision themselves.
Gotcha. Well, why not give them names? I mean, I hear a whole lot of people who are, they got their org chart, and the org chart has Sally, Bill, Frank, and, Bernard, and they're all AI, a copywriter, but they've given them names as if they are.
I never thought about that, but now you said it, I actually would simply say they don't deserve a name. Okay. They don't have the humanity to have a name, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, and if I gave them names, they would start to exist as entities and living beings in their own right, and they're not. They're executors of a specific service, and they execute one specific service incredibly well, and that's their job. And I don't treat them as anything except a machine that executes a service. And maybe I will name them one day, but right now you've just mentioned it to me, so I'm thinking that, speaking off the top of my head, no, they don't deserve a name.
They don't deserve a name. I like that, because I think there's so many people trying to humanize these machines as if, I was reading and talking to somebody who said that they use their AI as a therapist, and because that's the person that they can talk to, and that person is responding obviously favorably and biased to their and to give them whatever the implied garbage in, garbage out, right? If you're in true need of a therapist and you're using the AI that you train to be your therapist, then they're just going to tell you what you want to hear, right? I mean,
well, no, that's a really interesting point. I was actually working on a whole theory that I came up with the beginning of a theory, and I thought, wow, this is a great idea. And it was the algorithmic trinity, which is the foundational technology of all the AI assistive engines. So ChatGPT, Google AI Mode, Microsoft Bing Copilot, Perplexity, Claude. when you're asking them as a search engine, find or give me the answer to this question, or give me the information that I need for this, tell me where I might buy this product or service, where should I book a flight, whatever it is, they're all founded on large language models, chatbots, so like ChatGPT was initially, search results, Google search, Bing search, and knowledge graphs. So the LLM chatbot gives the machine the ability to converse, to have a conversation. That's what you're doing, is having a conversation with it.
Yeah.
The search results supplement the information that the large language model doesn't know. So niche information that isn't in its training data set, or information that needs to be very up to date, because the training data set for ChatGPT-5 is famously 9 months old. So anything that's less than 9 months old, it needs to go and look in search results. But sometimes it will hallucinate, and when it hallucinates, it's because it doesn't know the facts, and it uses a knowledge graph, which is a machine-readable encyclopedia, to check the facts. So those three technologies I call the algorithmic trinity. And I spent an afternoon discussing with my Gemini Gem copywriter how I could develop this theory into a universal theory to change search engine optimization into generative engine optimization and move it on to AI assistive engine optimization. And at one point, the Gemini Gem said to me, "Oh, that's an aha moment," about halfway through the conversation. And I thought, wow, Gemini's just had an aha moment, because what it said to me was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And then I was sitting there and I was thinking, no, I'm actually talking to myself, and it's me who had the aha moment.
Yes.
But I was inspired by this machine that's a version of me that simply has significantly more knowledge, thinks faster, and brings things together in a slightly different way because of the way that it was trained. So I was actually just having a conversation with, I would say, a more knowledgeable version of me, with a different way of thinking, but not a better way of thinking, with less imagination, and I would say less inspiration. But the two of us together, me and my other me, really knocked it out of the park in an afternoon. I came to this universal theory about optimizing for AI assistive engines using the algorithmic trinity, and it took me 3 hours. And it would have taken me months to think all that through.
Yeah.
So what I'm using it for is to speed up the process of imagination, creativity. It's not replacing it. It's helping me move faster and not waste a lot of time lying in bed, unable to sleep, with things going round in my head. In 3 hours, the job is done.
And that's such a great realization. You know, as I think through what the AI gets to be for me, is that knowledge part where I don't have to remember, so now I can think.
Yes.
Right. So
Brilliant.
It gives me the ability to think, because I'm not trying to remember stuff I can't remember. Yeah. Because I don't have the ability to be able to do it, but it does, right?
Or bringing in things that I don't know. So, for example, what's it called? I can't even remember the name of it now. There's a marketing strategy called brand something that somebody invented, and it's incredibly famous. And I just said, how do you compare the Calicube process to
the brand X or whatever it is?
I wish I could remember what it was called. Anyway. And the thing is, I know nothing about this other branding strategy. And then it just listed out to me how the two compare, where they're similar, where there are contradictions, where Calicube might be better, where the other one might be better. And then I said, okay, so let's take the better parts of that one. What can we do to improve the Calicube process, which is our proprietary methodology for managing AI and Gemini and ChatGPT from a personal brand perspective? And I would have spent, 2 days reading a book to be able to do that. And I wouldn't be able to remember the whole book, so I wouldn't be able to actually do it as well as Gemini could do it. And so it was able to just do me a bullet list. So I could just look at it and say, okay, let's move that over there, move that over there. This one can now move over here. And the job was done. And as you say, it remembers things so I don't need to. And it brings in third-party knowledge that I don't need to assimilate in my own brain. One problem with that, though, is that after a while, the whole thing moves away from you. And I don't know whether the Kalicube process is going to do that. But with code, I've written a whole set of code for the Kalicube Pro platform. And in 2 weeks, I did the equivalent of what would have taken me about a year in code. And then I tried to change something in it the next week, and the whole thing fell apart. And the problem that I then had was when I went into the code to try to fix it again, I didn't understand how it had been built because the machine had built it rather than me. But I think I found the solution. Now what I'm doing is going through the chunks that it's written and breaking it down and getting the machine to comment everything. My only problem now is it uses approaches and logics that aren't mine. So getting my head around its logic is really difficult. It's got a, what was it called? A networking map that it builds. And it's like a grid with dots in it, so it can't duplicate anything. And my brain doesn't work that way.
No.
So when I'm trying to visualize it in my head, I'm going, I actually can't see how this works. It does work, but I can't see how it works. And that's a problem.
Yeah, that is so, and one of the things that I'm finding is it also allows me to learn differently. As a professor, and I was coined the special ed kid when I was a young kid, and put in different classrooms and all these other things. But now, as I'm teaching whatever my class is, it's my university class that I'm teaching, and I've gone through it. The folks that are in the audience have to learn what I think is important before they can pull out what is important. And what the AI is allowing me to do is I don't need to know all that other stuff. This is, as I'm learning, just tell me what I need to know right now, the way my brain is processing it. And so now I can move on to the next thing. Is it's giving me new information and it's helping me and teaching me what I don't know. I don't need to know everything about, if I say I'm doing history, I don't need to learn everything about France if I'm doing English history, right? And I don't have to know what happened in that year because I don't care what happened in that year, even though the professor that I had before thought that was so important to them because there was probably some experiential thing that happened in their family tree or their lives or whatever it is that they put in there. And so it changes learning. And so I'm really curious as you're doing it and as we're going through, what does education look like? What are the foundations that we have to, as people in the workforce now, do we go to conferences to learn, or do we go to conferences to learn what prompts to put in so we can learn?
Right. Just one thing. I remember the name of the marketing. It was StoryBrand.
StoryBrand. Okay. Gotcha.
So I just wanted to say it because otherwise I feel a bit foolish. It's one of those things is, you're trying to think of it off the top of your head. But I think education has completely changed or needs to completely change in the sense that it is that thing of remembering that something exists, not necessarily remembering what it is or how it all works. So whereas when we were kids, you had to understand, for example, everything about economics in order to get your economics degree, which was my case. I then did statistical analysis, and you had to learn all of the formulas to do the statistical analysis for the economics. And today, if you know the formula exists, you don't actually need to remember it. Because the machine can do that for you.
The machine can do it
and
for
so you. It reminds me a little bit when we were making a TV series for Bua and Koala. Bua and Koala are the cartoon characters we created with my ex-wife. And we made a TV series with ITV Studios that played on Playhouse Disney. And when we were making it, I was making it with a director who had a lot of experience. And I read a book, How to Make a TV Series, how to make an animated TV series. And I was sitting with him on the train, and he said something about the way we were going to produce it. It was the difference between 16:9 and 4:3.
Okay.
And I was saying we should make everything in 16:9 because it will still show in 4:3. We just have to make sure that none of the action happens in the bits that are on the side that will never show on 4:3 because it just cuts it off.
It cuts off, yeah.
And number one, he said, "How did you know that?" And I said, "Well, I read a book about it." And he laughed at me.
Yeah.
turns out I was right, but there you go. But then he said, what about this problem? I said, I don't know the solution right off the top of my head, but I think about a third of the way through the book, they mentioned the solution to that problem. And then when we got off to try, and I opened the book, and about a third of the way through the book, bingo, the solution to the problem was that. And it was that I could remember that I'd seen the solution to the problem and more or less where it was, and that was enough. But now you don't even need to remember where it was. You simply need to be able to say, I know there's a solution to this problem, and probably even I have a problem, just tell me the solution.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And that's a huge change. That was only, what, 18 years ago? That's nuts.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's just it's so well. Like when I first became an educator or a teacher, and I go to the university, and they teach me all I need to teach, and I'm going to teach physical education. I got a degree in communication. Now I'm going to teach PE. That's what I've decided I'm going to do at this point. And I come from California, because that's where I went to college, to Colorado. And in Colorado, they say in order for me to be an educator, that I have to pass a 150-word spelling test.
Oh.
And I have dyslexia. There is no way, even today, I could probably pass that 150-word spelling test. I had to go back to California and raise my family there instead of in Colorado, because Colorado said I wasn't fit to be a teacher. And you think about
I almost said a rude word there, but I managed to stop myself.
But you go, what does spelling in today's, 30 years later have to do with anything? Probably just some educators we'll talk to that say, well, you have to be a good speller for whatever reason. But
yeah, no, I mean, I've noticed with prompting now, I realize as I'm typing that I'm making mistakes all the time. Mm-hmm. I mix letters up, and I don't even bother going back to correct it, because I know the machine will understand that even though I wrote preform, I mean perform.
Yes, exactly.
So and it's making us so lazy. But there's something that I am slightly concerned about, is how lazy I'm liable to become, and how reliant on the AI I might become. I was sitting on the plane coming over here, 9.5-hour flight. So I prepared 10 different documents to go through and correct. And at one point, so basically it's documents written by AI that I then go through and correct. And I thought I'll just go through it and it'll be fine. And in one of the documents, there was a whole chunk about this long, about 300 words, that was just complete rubbish. And I could not for the life of me rewrite those 3 words properly. And I ended up just putting a big comment on it saying, this is how I need to correct it. This is the prompt I need to give to have the AI correct this for me.
Gotcha.
And that's only after a couple of years.
Yeah.
I hate to think what it's going to be like in another couple of years.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you think of what is lazy? I mean, we're going to have to define that, because what is it allowing me to accomplish by not doing some of the things that I thought were structured that would needed to be able to do? Like, why would I ever correct a document that I write ever again? Knowing, and somebody would say, well, that's lazy. You're going to learn how to write. You're going to know how to write properly. Well, no, I need to communicate this concept, right, to whoever.
No, you made a really good point, is actually looking at the 300-word passage and saying, I don't need to rewrite it. I need to write the prompt so the machine rewrites it for me and gets it much closer. It isn't laziness, and it isn't a failure on my part. It's the way the world is today, and I need to accept that. And it makes me feel much better about that, because I got off the plane feeling a little bit guilty.
Yeah, no, there's no, because you think about what impact you're making in the world as a result of you not spending that time doing that task. Well, yeah, you know how to do it, and we know how to do a lot of things, but where is the best use of my time? Well, the best use was writing that prompt, right?
Problem is, I then spent the time I saved doing that watching an episode of Friends, laughing at Joey. That's the best use of my time.
Well, it has to be at some point, because we do need to release and have entertainment and be able to enjoy what mankind is be able to put together. I mean, imagine a world where there isn't entertainment and there isn't music and all the things you've been able to do, as a result of being our relationships with humans. And so, oh my
Brilliant.
gosh. Oh my God. Well, Jason, we have to continue this conversation. I know we're up at our time right today. And so we got to find some time.
My life story didn't get much of a look in there, did it?
No. So I want you to, whatever we didn't get to talk about that you want people to know right now. And then you and I, oh my gosh, there's just too much to talk about that we can't just say, oh, we're done. And then this podcast stops. So here's what I promise you, listeners: if you're watching this now, or you watch it as a recorded video, Jason and I are going to have another conversation. We're going to talk about this several times. We have become friends in this last hour that we've been here, and the time that we're going to spend talking about something that we know is important to you because it's important to us. And there's so many people who are asking both of us questions about this all the time. So we will make sure we come back. But before we do, there's some things, how to talk to us about what you want to make sure that we all know, how to get a hold of you, that kind of stuff if we need to.
That was actually not the conversation I expected at all, but it was absolutely delightful, talking a lot about AI and how I use it and how we use it at Calicube. I suppose the big thing is, for me, that controlling how AI, Google, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Siri, Facebook, Meta understand you and how they represent you to your audience, they are the interfaces between you and your audience, and they're going to be increasingly interfaces between you and your audience. They're going to keep your audience in their walled gardens. All of the big tech companies are creating their own walled gardens. And how they represent you to the subset of their users in their walled gardens who are your audience is fundamentally important. And it's an existential problem that I think most people in the world would do well to look at today. And I believe that it's a right to be able to manage how they perceive you, how they understand you, and how they represent you. And if you go to my website, calicube.com, KALICUBE.com/guides, we give away how to do this for free. Because it's your right, and because the solution is not geeky, it's simple, and anybody can do it. You just need time, and you need to apply yourself to it. And then our business is helping entrepreneurs who are cash rich, time poor, who really care about their personal brand because it's fundamentally important to their business. They come to us and they pay us to do it for them, which makes a great business model. So I can afford to be, in inverted commas, generous. But whether it was with the punk folk group I played in the 90s, or Bouan Kuala, the cartoons we made for kids with my ex-wife in the 2000s, or Calicube today, I want to help people. I want to make the world a better place. And I think the music I played, the cartoon characters my wife and I created, and helping people seize back control of their own brand narrative from these big tech companies are fundamentally positive things that I'm contributing to the world.
Thank you so much. And thank you for explaining that in that way. It is so, as I'm thinking more about relationship and how important our relationships are, the reason somebody would need a personal brand isn't for the computers. The reason you want a personal brand is for the relationships that will be part of your life in the future. And it is your right to have that be correct, and that people perceive you as the person that you are, not what's going to come out of a machine and that kind of stuff. Because what it all boils down, what we care about is the people and the relationships that we have in life. And we're just making tools that allow us to have better, tighter relationships. So I think
the machines are often the lens that people see you through. So people will see you through the lens of Google, or the lens of Meta, or the lens of Siri, or the lens of ChatGPT. So they're not your enemy. They're simply a lens that people are looking through. They have control over a great deal of our lives today. And it's your responsibility, your job, and your right to make sure that lens is fair to you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. And thank you for saying that. Hey, for those of you, if this is your first episode, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, notification buttons, all that kind of stuff. We have some amazing guests that we get to have conversations like I just got to have with Jason today.
That was cool.
And I can't wait to have more with him and more with you guys. And I can't wait to convince, I got to get your ex-wife on here because I got to convince her for you guys to write that book. I know you don't have time to do it, but we're going to figure out how to, do it. And so we're going to do on October 18th. If you're watching this after October 18th, 2025, then you just missed our first, AI, workshop. I'm going to help people write their own ebook by the end of it. We're going to have some fun while we do it. So hopefully, Jason, you can be a part of that. We'll talk about that offline soon. But for the rest of you guys, I want you guys to know you're God's greatest gift. He loves you if you allow him to. I can't wait to have another conversation with you and have you be part of this. And so have an amazing, awesome, just incredible day. We'll look forward to talking to you on the next one. Jason, give us one last thought to leave on, and then we'll be out for today.
Well, my last thought was that was the most delightful conversation I've had in an awfully long time. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. All right. We'll talk to you guys soon.